Welcome back to the Jsfl podcast. This is the end of week 8 and we're going to go into week 9, but before we do, we have a podcast straight for you. And we have a lot of big news, new playoff standings, some new news, and let's get into it. But let's go over the schedule for week 8 that started. Enforcers at the Minneapolis Fishers. Enforcers coming out with the win on this one. I think it was pretty decently margin of a win. And the Fishers on kind of a losing streak now, and the Enforcers on kind of a winning streak as they go 4-4 and push the Fishers to 3-5. The Detroit Power at the Phoenix Gila Monsters. The Phoenix Gila Monsters get their second win in a row and maybe a little bit of a streak. And the Power go to 5-3 now as the Gila Monsters go up to 6-2. The Musicians at Wave for the other 1 o'clock game. Musicians coming out of this one really easily. And they snagged that one going 6-2 and putting the Wave at 1-7. Then the 4:15 games. The first one, the Cleveland Pirates at the Seattle Natives. One of the closest upsets we've seen in a while. The Cleveland Pirates, they were leading the Natives for almost the whole game until the fourth quarter when the Seattle Natives finally started to show up. But the Pirates go 1-7 and the Natives go 7-1. But this gives us the question, are the Pirates possibly a good team? And if they are, it's probably too late for the playoffs, but you can only maybe think they could beat the Power. But the Power have to lose all of their games, so that's pretty much impossible, to be honest. So maybe next year. Are they a team for next year, possibly? Then the Charlotte Bats at the New York Businessmen. The Businessmen finally get their first win of the season with their backup quarterback Henry Gurnett, and they go put the Bats to 2-6, and they go 1-7. And the LA Earthquake at the Kansas City win for that Monday night primetime. The Earthquake lose that one, and they fall from the best team in the league. And the Wind and the Earthquake are now at 6-2. So that was the week, and now we go into the league standings after that one. So the league standings in last place, now in the new relocation status, is the Miami Wave. So Miami falls after the New York Businessmen being there for so long, and they are a new relocation status team. And I never thought they'd get this far down because they got their first win pretty easily early in the season, but they started to just fall in things. But their relocation team would be the Atlanta Sky Predators so far as most popular demand for the Miami Wave. But it's not set in stone, but if the Miami Wave are the relocation status team at the end of the season, you'll see bye-bye to Miami Wave and hello to the Atlanta Sky Predators. And yeah, that's the 12th. 11th, hanging in on the balance, one of our other 1-7 teams, the Cleveland Pirates, had just a good enough game to keep them out of the relocation status, so they make it. 10th. I knew this team had a lot of power, but apparently they have a lot of points because they are 10th in the best 1-7 team in the league, the New York Businessmen. They go from 12th to 10th in 1 week. 9th, the only 2-6 team here, the Charlotte Bats. 8th, the Minneapolis Fishers, the only 3-5 team. 7th, the Houston Enforcers, the only 4-4 team. 6th, the Detroit Power, the only 5-3 team. Now we have 4 6-2 teams, so strap on with me. And no specific order, I'll just tell you the teams quick. New Orleans Musicians, LA Earthquake, Kansas City Wind, Indy, and Phoenix Gila Monsters. So the number 5 team, this is all off points of offense and defense combined, so average. And the team with the average of the worst, number 5th, Phoenix Gila Monsters, 6-2. Now Phoenix's offense is the best in the league, and their defense is doing good, but we'll have to see. They have to keep performing up if they want to make it in that playoff picture. 4th, New Orleans Musicians. The Musicians have a rising offense now that's higher in the league, as you'll see later, and the defense has been performing pretty good too, but the other 2 teams rank higher than them. 3rd, which kind of surprises me on this one, I think they are I would put them in 5th in this league, but not what the points say, because their one defensive player there is elite. It is the Kansas City Wind at 6-2. So they are in 3rd, and it's mostly off the performance of William Torres, almost barely out of the MVP race. and that's what helps their score so much. And second, the only other 6-2 team left, LA Earthquake, because they have an elite defense and Roland Lemus, who gets some points, and then Ross Williams just does it all on offense. So that's what keeps them so high. In number first, the Seattle Natives, the only 7-1 team, but almost losing to the Cleveland Pirates, who are ranked number 11. You gotta think, what's Seattle doing here, and can they keep this? Will they keep that what they played at Cleveland up? And if they do, it ain't gonna be a nice playoff ride for them. Now we go to the MVP race. Changes all over. I don't think anyone dropped out, but I could be mistaken. Number 10, Brian Tepps, Phoenix Gila Monsters. Tepps has had some pretty good gameplay. Let's look at his stats quick. Tepps, 185 completions, 252 attempts, 1,852 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and over 50 rushing yards in a game. So I'm looking at these stats. A little more interceptions than needed to be. Just some from the bad decisions. A pretty good touchdown amount, nice yardage, and some pretty good completions. He has the most in the league. And that's 10th worthy, I think. He plays really good, and he's a really good scrambler. So I think he deserves that spot. Number 9, Ronaldo Hoskins, Minneapolis Fishers. So Hoskins is, let's look at the stats. Gotta get over to him in the Fishers. So Hoskins, he has, over the course of the season, he's just been seeming to get better and better. He has 134 attempts, 675 yards, 1 touchdown, 22 broken tackles. And here's where, those rushing numbers are like, okay, he doesn't have the most yards, because that's because he hasn't been playing that good. But if you look at this receiving numbers, over 4 games with 50-plus receiving yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. He's the most receiving touchdowns on the team. He has more receiving yards than Andy Gibson and Kent Green combined. So, you got to give it up to the guy. And, yeah, so his receiving game really helps that Minneapolis team. Gives Scotty Hooper a shot to throw to. And, oh yeah, Scotty Hooper actually fell off the MVP race. That's who. And you'll see who skyrocketed himself on the MVP race. He's number 4. Number 7, he was at the cusp. Oh, no, number 8, my bad. Willie Rogers, Kansas City Wind. So their defense is elite, but sometimes you think, where does their offense get many points? Because they're ranked pretty low in the league on offensively. It's Willie Rogers. He does a lot for this team. 166 attempts, 828 yards, so a lot more than Ronaldo Hoskins. 3 touchdowns, 25 broken tackles, and his receiving numbers aren't as good as Hoskins. 1 receiving touchdown and over 50 receiving yards in 2 games. So he's a pretty good back, and he's got a lot of yards, and I think he's obviously probably going to have over a 1,000-yard season. He breaks a lot of tackles. Not that much of an end zone threat as Julio Jokes or Taylor Little, but he's definitely a good back, a down-and-down back, I would say, in this league. 7th, he was on number 10 last week. He got up to number 7 with a pretty good game, like we saw in the first couple weeks of the year. Julio Jokes for the Phoenix Gila Monsters. He had a pretty good game this week against, I forget who he was against, but he had a pretty good game this week, and he goes up to number 7, trying to get back to where he was at the beginning of the year. And let's look at his stats. He probably won't go back to where he was at the beginning of the year. He'd have to make some big climb, and he's a second-string back, so who knows. But him and Frank Jog make a good tandem together. He has 66 attempts on the season, 388 yards, 8 touchdowns. He's an end zone threat to be reckoned with, and 13 broken tackles. But his receiving game is also to be reckoned with. Over 50 yards in a game and 3 touchdown receptions and over 100 yards in a game. I know, 100. A lot of yards for Julio Jokes. Probably not as good as Ronaldo Hoskins, but pretty dang close. And he has less yards than Hoskins, but a lot more touchdowns. And that can help you a lot in the standings for MVP. Number 6. Seems like he's falling a little bit every week, but it's not enough to notice besides me noticing. But Kermit Poe for the Seattle Natives, as he had a pretty bad pretty bad game this week against the Cleveland Pirates, which is, he was told to have a good game and maybe bounce back against the Earthquake, but he did not show up at all. But here are stats on the season: 169 completions, 231 attempts, 2,219 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He has the most passing yards in the league, though, and the interception touchdown ratio is amazing. No rushing numbers, no over 50 rushing yards or touchdown runs, so that's probably what hurts him a little bit. And his numbers weren't good this week. And then for number 5, you have Ross Williams of the LA Earthquake. He's been carrying this LA Earthquake team. There's not much else to say. He's what keeps them at the number 2 spot against all the other 6-2 teams right now. Even over that Kansas City win team with the William Torres and the Willie Rogers duo. He has 170 attempts, 942 yards, behind the only one behind Taylor Little. No, wait. He is second in rushing yards behind Taylor Little. 4 touchdowns, 29 broken tackles, and a game over 50 receiving yards. So he's not that much of a receiving back, but he can really... He's that down-to-down back that this Earthquake team needs when Carlos Young can't pick up the slack. And he does it great, and that's why this team is doing so good right now. And now for 4th place, he wasn't even on the MVP race this year, last week, but he skyrockets the numbers. He's been on the MVP race this year, but he gets back onto it really at the highest he's ever been. Owen Castles of the New Orleans Musicians had over 200 rushing yards this game, and he just balled off against the Miami Wave. Nothing can stop him on that game. On the stats for the year, he has 169 attempts, 835 yards, 4 touchdowns, 23 broken tackles, over 50 receiving yards in a game, and 2 receiving touchdowns. So those are some pretty good numbers. Yards are pretty high, touchdowns are decent, broken tackles are pretty good, receiving numbers are decent, and he can just take the pressure off Steph Skiles. Steph Skiles is a great quarterback. He's been on the MVP race already this season. But, Owen Castles just makes that offense so dynamic. That's why they're climbing up in the rankings. That they're just great, whether they're running the ball or passing the ball. And Owen Castles just balled out against the Waves, so he's on the list now. 3 is Colton Yu of the Seattle Natives. He falls one spot to, you'll see, you can probably guess, but here's his numbers. He didn't have that good game. That's probably a good enough game to keep him in, so that's probably why he fell. 167 attempts, 755 yards, 6 touchdowns, 33 broken tackles, over 50-plus receiving yards in a game, and 2 receiving touchdowns. So pretty similar to Owen Castles, just more touchdowns, more broken tackles. Less yards than Owen Castles, but those broken tackles and touchdowns can help a person. So that's probably why he is good in this category. Number 2 is Sean Richardson, the highest quarterback in the MVP race, as he balled out this week. Well, he didn't win the game, but he did pretty good against this Kansas City win team. Kind of roasted their defense just a bit. His stats on the season: 151 completions out of 199 attempts, 1,777 yards, 18 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 5 rushing touchdowns, and over 50 running yards in a game. Yes, you heard that right, 5 rushing touchdowns. He has the most rushing touchdowns of any quarterback in the league, and over a lot of halfbacks, too. Most of the halfbacks in the league, too. So, that which makes him really good. That's what helps his stats way over Kermit Poe, because he is dynamic with the legs and the hands. He may not have as many throwing yards as Kermit Poe, but he almost has the same amount of touchdowns, 1 less interception, and he can get the job done sometimes when Kermit Poe... Well, probably Kermit Poe can get the job done a little more than Sean Richardson, but Sean Richardson, dynamic with the legs, too. And he hasn't moved off the MVP race number 1 for the whole season. Don't think he ever will, because he just dominates the league. Taylor Little of the Detroit Power as the number 1 MVP candidate still in the league. 183 attempts, 1,150 yards. The first back to go over the 1,000 mark. Ross Williams is getting there, but Taylor Little, I think, already broke it last week. 11 rushing touchdowns, 42 broken tackles, over 50 receiving yards in a game, and 1 receiving touchdown. Maybe not the best receiving numbers as some of the other backs, but, if you look at these downs, you already got Sean Richardson throwing a lot and getting a lot of touchdowns, already run with his legs. But if you put Taylor Little in there, oh my gosh, that defense. You got Hugh Brooks, who has over 300 yards, Walter Pratt over 300 yards, David Norman over 300 yards, Otis Steele over 400 yards. And then, you see how, a lot of these receivers in other teams have, one will have 500 yards, 1 3, 1 2, 2. All these receivers have around the same yardage. So, Sean Richards spreads the love, and Taylor Little just, well, enough talking about the team. Taylor Little, just a great back, down, great player. And that is MVP race. Now, the playoff picture. In relocation status, we already talked about this. Miami Wave, 1-7. In the hunt, number 2 spot. Houston and Forcers getting in the hunt now as they go 4-4, and they're in the hunt, taking over the Minneapolis Fishers spot. And number 1 in the hunt, it is the Phoenix Gila Monsters. They're so close to getting out of there. Just a couple more wins, and maybe obviously one of the other teams will lose at some point, because they're probably going to have to play each other at one point. Maybe the Phoenix Gila Monsters will have to prove their dominance against a team when they play one of these teams that are currently 6-2. Then, in 6th place in the wild card is the New Orleans Musicians. Yes, Kansas City Wind has the spot over them, so they're 6-2, and they're currently playing as the 6th seed. 5th seed, 6-2. The LA Earthquake. The only reason they're here is the Seattle Natives have a better record than them. So the LA Earthquake are currently playing in the 5th spot. 4th spot, Charlotte Bats, 2-6. They're still currently running the East. I don't think they will at the end of the season. So we'll see if they stay there, but I don't think so. Charlotte Bats, 2-6. 3rd, the Detroit Power fall to 3rd again because they go 5-3, and the record isn't good enough to keep them at the number 2 spot. So they're number 3. 2, Kansas City Wind because they have that 6-2 record, and they're the second best 6-2 thing in the seed. And then number 1 with the best record in the league, 7-1, Seattle Natives. So they stay there. All right, and then we go to the best quarterback tops. Completions, Brian Tepps, 185. Attempts, Carl White, 256. Yards, Kermit Poe, 2,219. Touchdowns, Sean Richardson and Kermit Poe tied for this. Wait, no. Sean Richardson, he has the most touchdowns with 18. Interceptions, Carl White and Danny Rodriguez with 8. Carl White not throwing interceptions for 2 games straight, I think, now. And Rodriguez throws a couple more, and I think one more in the Natives game, and he ties up with Carl White. I think Carl White's shown dominance over these 2 games with the Enforcers that put up 2 straight wins. I think if they play elite and only choke 1 more game this season, they have a shot to be a playoff team. Maybe. I don't think they will. I think it's a team that you can build on. I think their offense needs to be built on in the offseason, but we'll see. Halfback tops. Attempts, Taylor Little, 183. Yards, Taylor Little, 1,153. Touchdowns, Taylor Little, 11. And broken tackles, Taylor Little, 42. He dominates all the tops. Wide receiver and tight end tops. Receptions, Chet Wood, the tight end from the Phoenix Gila Monsters, 51. Yards, we have a new yards leader. Timothy Morgan from the Seattle Natives at 599, almost at that 600 mark. Touchdowns, Sheldon Romero and Chet Wood at 6. Chet Wood got some more touchdowns this week. And Sheldon Romero did not because their offense of the Natives could not get going this week. Defensive top, solo tackles, Dan Marino of the Miami Wave, 51. Assists, Ronaldo Smith with 31 of the New York Businessmen. Tackles for loss, William Torres of the Kansas City Wind at 18. Sacks, Roland Levis of the LA Earthquake at 17.5. He got 3 sacks this week. And turnovers, Ronaldo Smith at 6. He balled out in that 1 game against the Musicians. So he has that. Yes. Now we go into offense. The best. So, the top 3 yards were Musicians at 3rd, 2nd is Fishers, 1st is Natives. Receptions, 3rd is Power, 2nd is Fishers, 1st is Gila Monsters. Halfback yards, 3rd is Gila Monsters, 2nd is Earthquake, 1st is Power. O-lines, top 3 O-lines, New Orleans Musicians at 3, Seattle Natives at 2, LA Earthquake at 1. The LA Earthquake and Seattle Natives had the same amount of giving up sacks, but I think the Earthquake got the best O-line because Carlos Young, 1, he's not that good of an overall. Plus, Kermit Poe is actually a good scrambler. He just doesn't get the chance, I guess, because he has so many receivers to throw to and he likes throwing the ball. But Carlos Young is not the type of a person. He's just a pocket passer. So, I gave the Earthquake the benefit of the doubt. And now we go to the worst offense in the league. It is the Miami Wave falling down because they could not score against that New Orleans Musicians defense. 11th, the Cleveland Pirates had a good game, so they got out from last. Maybe they can keep going up that rating if they do good in the following weeks. 10th, New York Businessmen. That offense was fire this week against the Charlotte Bats. Let's see if they can keep that up. 9th, the Charlotte Bats, they stay where they were because they were pretty high against the 10, 11, 12 spots, so they keep where they are. 8th, Houston Enforcers staying where they are. 7th, Kansas City Wind staying where they are. 6th, LA Earthquake staying where they are. 5th, the Minneapolis Fishers fall to 5th in this spot because musicians fired up their offense. 4th, the Detroit Power fall down 1 spot. 3rd, the Seattle Natives fall down 1 spot. 2nd, all the way, you heard all those people falling down 1 spot. That's because the New Orleans Musicians had a great game against that Miami Wave, who was ranked #1 defense last week, and they scored like 27 over maybe 30 points. So they go to number 2. And the #1 offense, they could not beat the Phoenix Gale Monsters, so they stay there. And then defensively, the most total tackles, 3rd Natives, 2nd Businessmen, 1st Wave. Sacks, 3rd Businessmen, 2nd Earthquake, 1 Enforcers. And turnovers, 3rd Wave, 2nd Businessmen, 1st the Detroit Power. So the worst defense in the league is still the Cleveland Pirates. They don't change. 11th falls to Kansas City Wind. That defense just was not good. 10th, the Seattle Natives actually fell quite a bit. I was kind of surprised. I don't know why, but I guess the other defenses were doing good. 9th, Minneapolis Fishers. I think they fell, but I'm not sure. 8th, New Orleans Musicians. I'm pretty sure they went up a bit. Yeah, I think they went up by 2. 7th, Charlotte Bats. 6th, Houston Enforcers. 5th, the LA Earthquake, I think, fell a bit. I think they fell. 4th, the Phoenix Gale Monsters fall a tiny bit. 3rd, the Detroit Power stay where they are. 2nd, the Miami Wave, they go off from the best defense, and now they're 2nd best. And 1st, I think this is long overdue. New York Businessmen's defense finally gets their recognition for carrying that team. And now Henry Gurnett gives them some time to actually breathe before they're back out in the field. So now they finally are that first team in the best defense in the league, which I think is long overdue with players like Ronaldo Smith getting all those turnovers. The D-line's pretty good. The secondary got Eddie Tide. So that's great. I think that's long overdue for the New York Businessmen. And now we go into the league news. Henry Gurnett for the New York Businessmen. Carl Carrolls is an older quarterback for this team. He's getting over as we... Oh, actually, I want to talk about this first. Regression and progression. I have stats for that now. I'm not going to read all of them because it would take forever. But it took me a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I want to have a regression and progression in this league. And, yeah. So I think I'm proud of that. I made those stats, so there's now progression and regression. So Henry Gurnett, he's a young quarterback, pretty young quarterback. He can still progress according to the sliders. And Carl Carrolls, I think he's going to start regressing. And they're only a 3 overall difference. And Henry Gurnett, he led them to their first victory out of this. Carl Carrolls was 0-7 with the Businessmen. Now Henry Gurnett, he's 1-0. And he had a great game against the Charlotte Bats. Again, not one of the best teams in the league. But this week they play... The Businessmen play the Enforcers, a team that has been great, and their defense has been great. And Carl Carrolls is still injured for one more game. So we see if Henry Gurnett can have a good game against these Enforcers, even if they lose, I think Gurnett is going to start starring more than Carl Carrolls. And you might see probably Carl Carrolls might get traded to a team like, I don't know, the Charlotte Bats. They could maybe use a quarterback for 1 year while they try to think of a way to get a better pick in the draft. Because right now they'd be picking, in the draft they'd be picking, let's see, they'd be picking 4th. Okay, that's actually probably good. But maybe they just need a quarterback. Who knows? They might trade. Or Cleveland Pirates, but they also have an early pick. I don't know. Enforcers, maybe. Enforcers actually could use that. But who knows? Carl White might work out for them. But anyways, yeah. Henry Gurnett could be the way for the Businessmen. And I could see this team, if they get a good running back in the draft, maybe a receiver for Gurnett to throw to. You got the 80 overalls receiver with Sam Johnson, Eric Ward. But the defense is already elite, unless people regress. So, yeah, that could be a future star for them. Are the Detroit Power slipping is the second topic, and is there playoff hope for them? Right now, they are leading the north side of the division over the 3-5 Minneapolis Fishers and 1-7 Cleveland Pirates. So, and they're 5-3. So they're 2 games ahead of the second best in the league, And the Minneapolis Fishers have been slipping a lot more than the Powers. 1 game loss isn't going to hurt them, and I think they're going to go to the playoffs. Championship, I don't know. Right now in the playoff picture, we're not going to say this is happening because I don't think it will. It could, maybe. But we host the New Orleans Musicians, and I don't know if we'd win that game. We fought them in week 1, and we lost to the New Orleans Musicians. But maybe it'd be different, but I don't think, and even if we beat them, we'd go against a team like Kansas City or Seattle. We lost to Kansas City this week, and I don't think we already lost to Seattle this season. So those teams are our 3 losses. We beat teams. The teams we beat were, let's see. We beat the Businessmen in week 2. In week 3, we beat the Wave. In week 4, we beat we lost in week 4 to the Natives. Week 5, we beat the Fishers. Week 6, we beat the Pirates. Week 7, we beat... Week 7, we lost to the Wind, I think. Yeah, week 7, we lost to the Wind. And then week 8, we just played the Gila Monsters, and we lost. Wait, that doesn't make sense. No, I think we actually beat the Wind. Yeah, we beat the Wind. Never mind. So we could beat the Wind. But yet again, were we at home? We were week 7. Wind at Power. Yeah, we were at home. So Wind, they've been pretty good at their home stadium. So I don't know. I don't think it's a championship year yet. I think we need to strain out the defense a little bit. Possibly get some receivers, because it's Hugh Brooks and then some okay receivers. Like, it's 99 overall, Hugh Brooks, which is a great receiver. And then it's just Theodore Norman is our second. He's 70 overall or something, 71. So I think Sean Richardson, he's doing great. But if we gave him another top target in the draft, I think we could do really good. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the week. If you have any other news for maybe next week, give it in the comments section. And we should go over the week 9 schedule to finish it off. Week 9, Thursday night prime time. We'll see if the Power can rematch at the Seattle Natives. There's a rematch, yes. And we're going to the Seattle Natives to see if we can beat them. And then our 1 o'clock Sunday game, the Phoenix Gila Monsters at the New Orleans Musicians. 2 6-2 teams. I forgot that I put these two together. So we can see if the Gila Monsters win this game, they're going to be in the playoff picture, I'm pretty sure. And then if the New Orleans Musicians win this game, they'll still be in the playoff picture. But so this is a great game. I'm going to give that as my second overall game of the week, because the next one is great. The other 1 o'clock game is the New York Businessmen at the Houston Enforcers. The Businessmen trying to prove themselves, going on the second win streak if they can win this game with Henry Gurnett. See if he is that quarterback they need, that young quarterback. And Carl White trying to prove to this Houston town that the Enforcers are a team to be reckoned with that defense, and that now starting to get better offense. And then our 4:15 game, the Minneapolis Fishers go to the LA Earthquake. I don't know. The Fishers could possibly rebound. It would be a big upset in LA, but I think LA will win this one. The Kansas City win at the Miami Wave. Another one, I think the dominant team will win. Another upset might happen. Who knows? Probably not. And then the Monday night primetime, the Charlotte Bats at the Cleveland Pirates. If the Cleveland Pirates can play the way they did play at the Seattle Natives, that will be an easy win. But the Bats are still trying to fight for the East against the Businessmen, and this will be a big game to prove for them. But that is the podcast, and I'll see you guys when the Detroit Power and the Seattle Natives play.